I'll be honest with you. I grew up watching Formula One with a sense of frustration. Every time talk of an American works team came up, it ended in disappointment. But today, Cadillac is changing that narrative. This isn't just Haas 2.0. This is General Motors investing hundreds of millions, veterans like Bottas and Perez signing up, and legends like Mario Andretti advising behind the scenes. As an F1 fan, I've never been more intrigued. Could this be the moment America finally earns respect on the grid? Or will it all collapse under pressure? Imagine launching a brand new team into the most cutthroat sport in the world. And instead of gambling on rookies, you sign two of the most seasoned competitors on the grid. That's exactly what Cadillac is doing by putting Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas in their cars for 2026. Between the two of them, you're looking at more than 500 starts and over 100 podium finishes. That's not just race mileage. That's a combined career of adapting to different cars, working with top engineers, and surviving the political chessboard that defines Formula One. Most new teams cautiously ease into the sport with younger, cheaper talent. Cadillac went the other way, buying experience in bulk. This move surprised a lot of people because the expectation was simple. Copy the Haas model. When Haas entered, they filled one seat with a prospect who at least looked like a potential long-term bet, while leaning on a more experienced hand to guide the car's development. Cadillac skipped right past that formula. They're not investing in a rookie gamble. They're betting that when you've got General Motors money and a brand like Cadillac, you need credibility from the very first lap. Bottas and Perez bring exactly that. Each one has raced at the sharp end of the grid and worked within championship-contending setups. Let's break down why this lineup is more than just a comfort blanket. On the one hand, you've got Sergio Perez, one of the sharpest operators when it comes to tyre management. His consistency over long stints has saved Red Bull on strategy more times than fans give him credit for. On the other, Valtteri Bottas spent half a decade as Lewis Hamilton's teammate during Mercedes' era of domination. That experience alone is priceless because Bottas wasn't just punching the clock. He was the driver giving feedback in the debriefs of one of the most sophisticated technical machines in racing history. Pair that with Perez's knowledge of how front-running teams manage pressure, and you suddenly see why Cadillac wanted these two.
The combination sets a foundation that strips years off the usual learning curve. Every new team fights through the same painful phase: reliability issues, clumsy driver mistakes, and a lack of coherence between track feedback and factory problem solving. By hiring veterans, Cadillac tries to jump straight to the point, where the conversation in the garage is constructive, not desperate. Perez will stretch tyre strategies to give the engineers more useful race data. Bottas can articulate with precision where the car lacks balance. You may think of it like an expansion franchise in basketball or football that skips drafting rookies and instead signs two former championship players. It doesn't guarantee wins, but it guarantees instant legitimacy and teaches younger staff how the big leagues actually operate. Now, on the flip side, there's a real cost to doing this. When you don't bring in young talent from the start, you risk missing the chance to develop a driver who could become your brand icon for the next decade. That's especially touchy for Cadillac, because many assumed a young American like Colton Herta would anchor the project. Instead, they've doubled down on drivers who are already approaching the veteran stage of their careers. The gamble is obvious. If these two give Cadillac immediate legitimacy, the risk of not investing in rookie development becomes irrelevant. But if results stall, critics will argue the team sacrificed long-term growth for the illusion of instant seriousness. For Cadillac, though, this wasn't about glitter or headline signings. It was about sending a message to the entire grid that they're serious competitors from day one. And that leaves a bigger question hanging in the air. What happened to the dream of putting an American driver front and center? And why did Cadillac pivot so drastically? Behind Cadillac's final pairing with Bottas and Perez lies a different plan, one that could have put an American star front and center. Before the ink ever dried on their contracts, conversations inside the GM and Andretti camp circled around Colton Herta and a handful of other young US names. The idea wasn't just to build a racing team. It was to wave the American flag inside Formula One in a way no modern team has. That connection made sense, with Mario Andretti serving in an advisory role. If any name could link a new generation to America's greatest F1 success story, it was Andretti. For Cadillac, the dream of not just entering Formula One but doing so with a homegrown driver was something that quietly guided the early conversations. But the dream ran headfirst into reality. Formula One is not a forgiving place for a rookie, and it's even harsher when you're a brand new team trying to survive. Colton Herta has raw talent, no doubt, but throwing him into Formula One straight away would have meant staking hundreds of millions of dollars on a learning curve he might not recover from fast enough. Rookie mistakes don't just cost you points, they scare sponsors, burn through parts faster, and flood headlines with questions about credibility. For GM, with more than $200 million on the line each season, putting their entire project at risk just for the sake of symbolism wasn't something they could justify. That's the trade-off in sharp focus. The headlines would have written themselves if an American jumped into the cockpit on day one. The US media has long begged for representation in this sport, especially with 3 races now hosted on American soil. But the brutal truth is simple. For Cadillac to debut not just as another team, but as the only new works constructor since 2016, they needed stability, not press releases. A rookie risks crashes, reliability spirals, and wasted seasons. Sponsors don't sign multi-million-dollar checks just for patriotic pride. They need to see a pathway to results.
And here's where the conflict grows. For decades, Formula One has sidelined American drivers. Even when talent like Alexander Rossi or Herta pushed against the barrier, entry routes closed. So Cadillac's pivot to veterans feels, to some, like another missed chance. An American-backed team with American money, American branding, even an iconic Andretti in the background, and yet, no American driver behind the wheel. To fans who see participation as representation, it's a stinging disappointment. But inside the corridors of GM's boardrooms, it was about survival and legitimacy. Mario Andretti's presence complicates this further. His name alone ties Cadillac into US racing heritage, giving them credibility even if no American climbs into the car yet. Andretti symbolizes what's possible, the proof that Americans can not only compete in Formula One, but win its greatest prize. That symbolism is powerful enough to buy Cadillac time. Every new team has to balance identity against performance, and Cadillac seems willing to stagger those priorities. First results, then heritage. Here's the twist though. This isn't about refusing the American dream, it's about delaying it. Sources around the project suggest that Cadillac could absolutely bring in a US driver once their internal structure stabilizes. Signing Perez and Bottas now buys them breathing room. While the veterans anchor the team, a driver like Herta could be tested in a controlled environment, nurtured without the crushing expectation of carrying a brand new entry alone. That opens the door for an eventual transition. And when it happens, Cadillac could deliver the American driver story in a far stronger way. So the trade-off is clear. Cadillac sacrificed short-term patriotic pride to lay the kind of foundation that doesn't collapse in year 2. The truth is, they didn't abandon the rookie plan because they never wanted it. They abandoned it because doing it now could have destroyed the project before it even had a chance to compete. And if Cadillac is already willing to make choices like this from the start, the bigger question becomes, how much could these decisions reshape Formula One over the next decade? Cadillac isn't stepping into Formula One just to fill the grid. By locking in Bottas and Perez and leaning on Andretti's legacy, they're buying instant credibility while quietly planning something even bigger. A fully American-built engine arriving in 2029. That's when Cadillac stops being just another entry and becomes a true US works team. The bigger question is what this strategy means long-term. If veterans stabilize the project, will that finally open the door for an American driver to thrive? Or does Formula One remain a stage where US talent can only watch from the sidelines, waiting for their moment? If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe and like for more content like this.